Hey everybody, I'm Jay from Trailer Jury, and this is Jay's Corner. This is where I talk about what I want to talk about. This episode is James Gunn versus Netflix and Disney Star Wars. Fight! Now, if you don't know who James Gunn is, you've probably been living under a rock or you don't watch movies, but in that case, how'd you end up on this channel? James Gunn is an American filmmaker who has been working in the industry since 1996 and is the current CEO of DC Studios as of the making of this video. He first appeared on my radar in 2014 with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy, which he wrote and directed. He continued with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 before moving to DC Studios to write and direct The Suicide Squad, and to be the showrunner for the Peacemaker TV series, returning then to Marvel to finish up the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. All critical successes and mostly commercial successes. The Suicide Squad didn't quite make its money back, but I blame that on the first Suicide Squad movie being terrible and tainting the brand.
Ew, gross.
And with the highly anticipated release of the 2025 Superman film around the corner, nobody can say that James Gunn isn't killing it right now. He's worked on two of the biggest franchises ever, and now he's the head honcho of one of them. In my opinion, his success lies in his ability to masterfully balance comedy with drama. The movies in the show I listed are absolutely hilarious, yet still manage to pull on your heartstrings. I admit that he's been able to make me, a 6'5" dude, bawl my eyes out in the middle of a movie theater. It was not a flattering sight.
Take my hand!
Take my hand, Peter.
His works are just enjoyable, and according to Rotten Tomatoes, most people agree with me, with both the critics and audience polls scoring in the high 80s and 90s. Now, I'm really trying to emphasize the current success that he is achieving at the moment for one reason. I think that parts of the film industry are failing, and people like James Gunn may be the one to fix it. I'm going to talk about three major failings that, in my opinion, are huge red flags, and those are Netflix, the Hobbit trilogy, and of course, Disney Star Wars. Let's start with Netflix. An article from N+1 magazine talks about the abundance of films that Netflix releases with little to no quality control. Now, many studios have tried the business model of releasing as many films as possible, and most of the time that has failed due to being unsustainable.
You can't keep this up, Bob.
When doing this, the studios don't have the manpower to ensure the quality of the films don't start slipping. Then when the quality does go down, people lose faith that the movies in the theaters will not be worth their time, and they stop spending money. Profits drop. Netflix thinks and operates differently from a normal studio. The revenue comes from subscriptions, which means every month, if you have an account, they get your money, whether you use their service or not. They don't need to worry as much about the quality of their content as long as they have a seemingly non-ending supply of things to watch to keep people from unsubscribing.
Good enough.
Streaming services are probably the only place where this type of business model has a chance of even possibly working. They rely on the portion of their audience who are half viewing the content, the people who are at home doing chores with Netflix playing in the background. My own brother will have the show House playing while he's reading a book. I don't know how he does it. To cater to the casual viewer, Netflix has started to break one of the golden rules of filmmaking. Show, don't tell. This is a narrative technique that started out being used in the writing of books. It allows the reader to experience the story through actions, words, subtext, thoughts, senses, and feelings rather than through the author's exposition, summarization, and description. Authors like Ernest Hemingway advocated for the use of show don't tell and went on to say, if a writer of prose knows enough of what he is writing about, he may omit things that he knows, and the reader, if the writer is writing truly enough, will have a feeling of those things as strongly as though the writer had stated them. Essentially, what he is saying is that a reader or viewer can infer what a character is feeling by his actions and what he does instead of being told by the author how he's feeling.
Yeah. Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
Always a way out. You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
If I were to write a story about a man having to put down his dog, telling would be, the man sat there and said he was sad that his dog had died. Showing would be, the man sat alone, unable to hold back the tears. Every minute the hole in his chest that his best friend used to fill grew. The world seemed to darken around him. Now, which one invokes more emotion? Which one seems to put you in the mind of the man? Which one tells a better story?
No, it's obvious. It's obvious, Moira. Right?
Filmmakers have taken the same technique and adapted it to their medium. If they want you to know that a character is happy, they have the character smile, laugh, or frolic through some tall grass. They don't have the character say, I'm happy. That's boring and makes it impossible for the audience to connect to the character and lose themselves in the story. In Iron Man 3, Tony Stark is having anxiety attacks. We see him struggling to keep his focus and balance, his breathing becomes strained, and he has to stop everything he is doing and try to recover. Seeing this imagery invokes more emotions from the viewer than if Tony Stark simply states that he's having trouble dealing with the events of the attack on New York from the first Avengers movie. To stop using show don't tell can spell disaster for a film. A great example of this is the 2016 Suicide Squad, not to be confused with the James Gunn's 2021 The Suicide Squad. It's the infamous introduction of Katana.
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
This is what would be called an exposition dump. A large amount of information given to the audience at once. The exact opposite of show don't tell. Would it have not been much cooler to have seen Katana's powers in action instead of just being told about it? This is where Netflix goes astray. Their executives are telling their writers to tell, not show, giving notes such as, and I quote, have this character announce what they're doing so the viewers who have this program on in the background can follow along. Now that might be a good note for a radio play, but not for a movie. According to some of the sources from the N+1 article, certain Netflix executives have also been greenlighting projects without even reading the scripts. This is insanity.
That is just insane.
The script is the foundation for the entire story. If you mess up the script, everything falls apart. The Hobbit trilogy is a great example of shooting a film without a script. Guillermo del Toro was slated to write and direct the Hobbit films. A year and a half into the pre-production, del Toro pulled out of the project, and then Peter Jackson had to step in and pick up the pieces. Because del Toro and Peter Jackson have such wildly different directing styles, the script that del Toro wrote would not have worked for Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson had to start from scratch while already missing that year and a half of pre-production. They end up starting to film without a finished script. It was pure chaos. Everyone was always behind, things weren't finished until they were needed on set, and Peter Jackson was writing scripts a day before they were needed. That is not the way to run a film production. If you look at the behind-the-scenes photos, Peter Jackson can be seen looking like a defeated man. You would look like this too if you spent 266 days filming all 3 Hobbit movies and every day trying to play catch-up. I did not enjoy the Hobbit films and wonder what they could have been like if they had time to properly prepare. Star Wars had a different but similar problem with their sequel trilogy, which was 7, 8, and 9. They also didn't have scripts ready for all 3 films before they started filming, but they didn't even have a semblance of a plan. Filming 3 films without a script cannot be that bad as long as you have a vague plan and someone talented like Peter Jackson who directs all 3 of them. Like Del Toro and Peter Jackson having different directing styles, so did J.J. Abrams, who shot episodes 7 and 9, and Rian Johnson, who shot episode 8. Now, because there was no through plan, Rian Johnson didn't have a general direction that he was supposed to go in. So what did he do? He did his own thing. It didn't work.
It wasn't good enough.
It's not good enough.
And I don't blame him, but because he did his own thing, spoilers here, by killing off the main antagonist, he didn't leave J.J. Abrams' episode 9 anywhere to really go except to resurrect Emperor Palpatine by using Tell Not Show for a double whammy of stupidity.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
This is where I bring it back to James Gunn. Not only do I believe that he is capable of using the golden rule of show don't tell, he posted on Instagram saying, "We won't greenlight a film until we have a finished script we're happy with in general. We won't cast a film until the script is finished. This is why some projects are moving faster than anticipated and others are moving slowly. It's always going to be quality first, no matter what." That statement gives me hope for the film industry. It fights against Netflix's quantity over quality and fights against the studios that don't properly prepare and release junk. He's someone who understands that if you want your films to be successful, you have to make them good. You have to make them something that people will enjoy seeing. James Gunn will save the DC universe and hopefully will be an example to future filmmakers of how it should be done. Thanks for listening to this episode of Jay's Corner, and may your movie-going experience be great.